Hello, hello, hello. Okay. Here we go. We are back again. I am your host, Jessica Koch, and this is Profound Professionals. Profound Professionals is an interview series that has been coming to you for 9 years now. Can you believe it? I can hardly believe it myself. We have been bringing you, let's see, over 1,000 guests, industry experts from all over the world. They help improve your personal life or grow your business. So I am happy to share with you that we have a really interesting guest. He has done some special things. He's connected with and he's learned from thousands of entrepreneurs for over 5 years, and he's actually learned from them because I know one parts of his process is actually listening to them teach and building business connections and knowledge with these individuals is how Michael Whitehouse can say that he is a guy who knows a guy. And I can tell you, he also knows a couple great gals. I happen to be one of them. My friend Summer is one. There's lots of great gals in his world too. So welcome, Michael Whitehouse.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Okay, so here we go. I would love to hear how you actually became this guy who knows a guy.
Well, I was born a very young boy. No, wait, not that far back. Um, so it all began with a visit to a secret government networking research lab where I pricked my finger on a radioactive business card. The next morning, I woke with strange new powers. Okay,
Wait,
that's not
I think
actually the
that
story.
story is taken too.
Yeah. Okay, that's not actually the story either. When I first moved to Groton, Connecticut here, I didn't know anyone. I had no job. I had nothing to offer, nothing to sell. The only thing I had was being an extrovert and a little bit of ADHD. So the night before I moved into my apartment, I attended my first Chamber of Commerce event and just started meeting people. And one of the big mistakes people make in networking is being too pitchy, being too salesy, being too aggressive, which you can't do if you have nothing to sell. So all I could do was help people. And the only thing I had to talk about was them. So I would talk to them, find out what they needed, and it turned out oftentimes the person they needed was the person on the other side of the room I met 15 minutes ago, or the person I met at the last Chamber of Commerce event, or the person I'd just seen in a Facebook group, or whatever. And so because I was paying attention, I started making connections. And within 3, 4, 5 months, I'm introducing CEOs, mayors, community leaders, nonprofit executive directors, people who've lived in the area for decades when I've lived for days, and they didn't know each other. Because
Wow.
what I discovered is when you know you don't know anyone, you're going to go out and meet people. When you think you know someone, like, I don't need to network. I already know plenty of people. So I started working on that and building my network through that. I ended up finding my first jobs in the area. I had a kind of half-baked business idea, but at the time it wasn't even half-baked. It was like business batter. So ended up having to get like a real job, which I got through networking. Got tired of that job, got another one through networking. Eventually wrote my first book, The Guy Who Knows a Guy, because I said, this is easy for me, but other people seem to have trouble with it. Why don't I write down what I did? And that's how I became the guy who knows a guy. And that was my in-person networking story until 2020 when everything changed.
Yeah, in-person networking. And I think now we have a great hybrid. So I kind of feel like there's a lot of positive we can focus on from all of those shifts and changes that have happened over the last, I don't know, 3 to 5 years, right?
Yeah.
A fascinating thing that you said was, when you live there for so long, you think you know everyone, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think the same thing happens. I think it's fascinating with the cool things that are around you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone new will come into town either for a short visit or just live there, and they'll go to all of the what's supposed to be famous landmarks there, or things to experience, or whatever. And I've seen more than once them be the educator of someone like you said who's lived there forever, who had no idea that was 2 blocks down from them, or drove by it forever and just never bothered to go in because it's there. I'll get around to it. I'll go in one day, you know.
Yeah, I live in a vacation destination, and a lot of people around me, locals who grew up here, like, there's nothing to do here. It's boring. I can't wait to get out of here. I'm like, people fly 1,000 miles to come
Yeah,
here and spend a week. doing all the things that are next door to you.
That's
But
right.
but it's that, that nobody's a prophet in their hometown, and nobody's hometown's a destination, because you
Yeah.
don't look at it. You just think you know what's there. You get blind to it.
Yeah, there are definitely, I've had some mornings where I've had the big aha moment. So there's a big Thomas Johnson Bridge where in Solomon's Island where I live, and I have to cross it many times a day, especially during the school year because my
Hmm.
daughter is on the other side. And there are moments that hit when you're crossing, but you're way up. First of all, it's scary. It's scary as all get out. It's scary for someone who's been doing it since she was in high school. Like when I my first driving, and then back in the day, they had it in the high school, and we lived 30 minutes from the high school is 30 minutes from this bridge. He takes me for my very first time I'm ever behind the wheel, ever. He does a great thing. He takes me down the straight road. It does nothing. It's nothing. It's trees. It's a straight road. There's nothing. Okay. It's an easy road to drive. And he takes me straight to this bridge. I was going to kill us both.
Yep.
But it's really high arched, and the only things on the sides, and it's 2 lanes only. So head on collision or nothing because there's no margin. And the siding is concrete. There's little concrete dividers they sometimes put in the road.
Yep.
Well, that's it. That's as high as it goes. That's it. You get bumped, you're over in the water, and I'm not sure you're making it. But anyway, sometimes when you come across that bridge, the sun's setting or rising in a certain way. There's the river because it's the Patuxent River in Chesapeake Bay is filled with sailboats, and I mean it's picturesque and breathtaking. And I remember to say to myself, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I live here." Now, you did all this great in-person networking, and then you've turned it to this amazing virtual thing. We haven't even touched on the events and the summits you have and the education you've pulled in, not only just connecting people correctly, but really helping people impact each other's worlds. I know for myself because attending one of your joint venture events, summits, um, I've had that experience, and I have had several people that have made a long term impact on moving forward. We're doing many things together and collaborating in beautiful ways, and I'm super excited about that. So tell me a little bit more, and tell all of us a little bit more about who's going to come to you and how are they going to engage and work with you. What kinds of experience can they get, and really what's their biggest challenge when they say, okay, I need that guy who knows a guy to help me beyond maybe a connection, right? Beyond just introducing me to someone. But where does it go from there, Michael?
Yeah. So there's a few different ways that people interact with me. One of them is, as you mentioned, the summits. I run interactive virtual events, and that came about because when everything went online, I was so excited because I could suddenly go to these events that I couldn't afford to go to before. Because a lot of these events, even get a free ticket, it's still going to cost you $2,000. You're playing into the hotel and the food and everything. And I'm like, great, I can get to these events. And then I went to these events and I discovered, to my chagrin, what a like live event was, which I like to pronounce like lie because that's what really it is. You're pretending it's live, but it's a lie. Or these non-interactive summits, these recorded summits. These aren't events; they're YouTube playlists. So I decided I'm going to run events that capture everything a live event gives you, at least as close as we can online, without the cost. And so I create these virtual summits, and it's not just about listening to a bunch of people, blah, 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 blah. You can't listen to people talk to you for 6 hours and retain anything. You need to engage. You need to talk it through. You need to, wake back up. You need to jiggle the mouse and get the screensaver off your brain. So that's the main way people engage with me at first, is joining my summits and being a part of the event, and then often becoming speakers. I'm very welcoming to newer speakers because we set it up with a 15-minute format, and anyone who's got expertise can speak well for 15 minutes. You got to be really good to speak for 45 minutes. Anyone who knows what they're talking about can talk for 15 minutes. And that creates a really good, interactive, engaging event and great platform. And then when I actually work with clients directly, what's unique about the way I work with them is that I don't have a proven framework or a specific strategy, because I talk to people all the time. Oh, I spent $30,000 with Susie Q, and she taught me her proven strategy, and out of the 9 steps, I can't do 3 of them. 2 of them I find immoral, and the other 4 I'm trying to figure out how to adapt to my business because they're so prescriptive and so didactic. And so instead I teach I work with my clients. So I don't have one of those things where you come and join and you meet with my coaches and you get to watch me on video, up on the mountain portraying the wisdom. I actually work directly with them. It's like if you ask me for directions.
Wait, you're the wizard that comes out from behind the curtain.
Yes. It'd be like if you asked me for directions to the grocery store, and I were to say, all right, so you get out of driveway, you go 100 meters, and then you turn left, you go 120 meters to the traffic light, turn left, go down the driveway, find a parking space, and you'll be at the grocery store. Because that is the proven framework, the 100% effective strategy for me to get to the grocery store. It works for me every single time. And if you follow that, you'll probably end up in a river or driving through someone's rose garden because your house isn't where my house is.
Right.
You need someone to get in the car with you and say, okay, you want to get to the grocery store. Which grocery store? All right, you use GPS. Let's type in the name of that into the GPS. Now let me show you how GPS works. Now let's follow that. And that's what I do with my clients, is work with them to figure out their GPS solution, whether it's my mindset programs or my business foundations programs, whether it's figuring out their mindset challenges or the business strategy. It's figuring out what they want to do, and then taking what I've seen, because I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly after meeting 5,000 entrepreneurs, and figure out which strategy. Because for some people, it's summits. For some people, it's podcasts. For some people, it's cold outreach. For some people, it's hanging a sign out and opening an office. And you need to use the one that's right for you, not just the one that's right for the person you hired because it worked for them. Because you're not them. You're you.
True. I do think, though, sometimes they are seeking someone like you, or me, or whoever they're working with, because they don't know, or they think they might know, but we can't see the forest for the trees thing is a real thing. And I was listening to you talk about mindset and strategy, and I'm kind of a believer that there's always a bit of mindset involved. Mindset is something we have to do on the regular, like brush your teeth. You have to brush your teeth every day. You've got to at least once. Let's hope 3 times. That's the suggested. I'm not giving you dental advice, okay?
At least once a week. At least once a week.
Yeah, whether you need it or not. And so it's one of those things you have to do regularly and often. And I think that brush the teeth is a great example, because that is something often people do after every time they eat or many times a day. And mindset is the same way. We need a mindset strategy that we can implement regularly. And then it needs a checkup, like it needs a monthly review or a quarterly review. Am I, on track? Is there something else I'm not addressing in the mindset world? And, all those things. So just like, you do brush your teeth regularly, but then you still go to the dentist and get that deep cleaning from the dentist and the x-rays and the deeper check. And I don't think we can maintain that on our own. That's why we go to a dentist, right? So we have to work with the Michael Whitehouse so that we can get, the business strategy and the mindset piece, and help us see what we can't see. Because, like an x-ray, there are some things that when an expert works with you and they take a look at your business from a different perspective and a point of view, they can help you. One of the great questions when I'm my accountability partners, and we're going to bring Summer up again, recently asked me is, really, what's the big goal? Really, what do you want to focus on? Really, what do you want? What do you really want? And I know we ask that to ourselves all the time. But when someone else asks you, it stops you in your track, because you have to actually formulate an answer, right? Yeah. When we ask ourselves, we don't necessarily have to answer ourselves.
Yeah. Well, and that's why so I teach the 9 foundational questions of business. And they are, what are your values? What's your big goal? What will get you to that big goal? What problem do you solve? How do you solve it? Who do you solve it for? How do you sell it? How do you get people in sales conversations? And how do you build your audience? Because if you don't know where you're trying to get to, it doesn't matter. You'll never get there. You'll do all this action and all this. You can have a lot of movement without having any progress. On a
Well,
treadmill, you got a lot of movement.
yes, but you don't go very far.
Yeah.
That's
And
true.
and to your point about mindset, I think one of the issues often is that we're taught very prescriptive mindset concepts.
Mhm.
And and so again, it's that it's not only it's a like this works for you, not for me. It's often this doesn't even work for the person teaching it. They're just simplifying it so much they want to get it to a sound bite. Never say never, which I've always thought was one of the most ironic rules. You don't never say never. It's when you say never, understand what it means and say never at the appropriate times. But you can't explain that in a soundbite. That takes a discussion. That's why the way I teach mindset in my program isn't I sit there and preach about the right way to manage your mindset. It's I bring up a concept like let's look at the words always and never, and then we do it seminar style and really explore those concepts so we can say, how does this land for you? What are situations where this doesn't make sense? Because otherwise what usually happens is somebody teaches you a concept and you say, I can see that, but I don't know if that works. I can't do that every day. Or you have people who say, I know I shouldn't say never, but I do. Well, if you know you shouldn't and you do, then it's probably not a really useful rule to live by because you're not even living by it. So, what is something that you would know you should and would do? Unless otherwise, it's just you have some book knowledge and you don't actually have any mindset strategies. You simply have one more source of guilt in your life, which is usually not an effective. Sources of guilt are not effective mindset strategies.
No, well, not typically. Although when you're raised an Italian Catholic, it's there's a deep root.
I think there's entire $10,000 programs about getting rid of that deep guilt. Actually, there's a whole cottage industry about helping people with that deep guilt.
For sure, for sure. So if I am listening and I'm thinking, wow, I might want to be a speaker on one of Michael's great events. I might want to attend or meet some great people like Jessica had the chance to meet. Or I think I want more than just a great introduction. I want to work with someone who can introduce me on a massive level, but also who could help me take my business to the next level. Where am I going to go? Where am I going to start? How am I going to, beyond watching this amazing podcast, get to the up close and personal and intimate behind the curtain with the wizard, Michael? How do they take those steps?
Well, so if they want to get into those spaces, they should go to summits.fun because all summits should be .fun. Summits.fun is where I list all my upcoming summits, including the applications that are open for upcoming summits and registration. I never charge my speakers to speak, and I never charge the audience to attend. There's VIP upgrades if they're interested in getting the recordings and whatnot, but you can always just go there, find one that tickles their fancy, click the register now button, and just come join us from anywhere in the world with Zoom access and become part of the community. And then if they want to get to know me better, I would encourage them to grab my 9 foundational questions of business ebook. I mentioned those briefly. If they go to guywhoknowsaguy.com/9qbook, as in 9 questions book, guywhoknowsaguy.com/9qbook, they'll get a free ebook that goes through the 9 questions, explains them, and gives some exercises on how to get clear on which ones you do have good answers for and which ones you don't, which is where you need to put your energy. And that's a good way to get to know me, and there's ways to contact me through that.
I love that. I love that. All right. Now we've covered a lot of things that you could consider are really amazing, amazing tips. But let's give everyone a really specific, focused action, some tip they can have that will really help them improve themselves that they could apply today easily. What do you got for us, Michael?
I'm going to give a bit of an anti-tip,
Ooh.
and that is there's no one right answer.
Mm.
So I meet people every day who gets caught in this trap of, well, this person said I should be doing it this way, and so I should be doing it this way. Or this person said I should go right, but this person said I should go left, and they're both very successful, so I don't know what to do. And the real answer is your answer is your answer. So
Mm.
just because somebody else made $1 million doing what they did, You are not them. If you were them, you would have made $1 million doing what they did, but you're not them. So you have to take what works and then let the rest go. And it's like a buffet. You don't have to pile up all one thing. You take a little bit of this and a little bit of this, a little bit of this. Something's going to resonate, something's going to click. That's who you go with. But just because someone has made millions or has millions of views or has a huge following or whatever, doesn't mean that they're even necessarily successful, because there's people with $1 million businesses that cost $2 million a year to run. But also, it doesn't mean that you'd want what they have, even if they are successful, because you're you, they're them. You have your calling, you have your talents, your gifts, and you need to find the strategy that works for you.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And one of the things that makes me think of is I know it was hugely impactful when I had kind of an aha moment. I mean, it's sometimes it's things you know for years, but you need to learn again, or you're not really applying, or you really needed to hear again at that one moment to get you through what you're working on. And mine was it doesn't have to be this or that, it can be this and that, right? There can be a variation of solutions to this one question you have in front of you. You know, if you're trying to achieve one specific thing, and the question is how do you get there? It is good to look at how all the other successful people are doing it and ask that same question of lots of people. How are you doing this? How are you achieving this? And then kind of decide based on your compass, like you said, what are my values and morals? What of those answers resonate with me? And which ones can I implement? And maybe it's not just one, maybe there isn't one answer, maybe there's multiple answers or a variation of the answers and the information that you've gathered, that becomes your own special, unique, recipe, right? When we're pulling things together. So, it's like going around asking everybody, what's your favorite salad? And everyone tells you everything they put in their salad. You might take a handful of those things and add them to yours, but then you've got a whole new salad because pulled that from 17 different people. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and it all based on your own taste, your own personality, and your own style. So I love that
And if
answer.
you put everything everyone says in your salad, you're going to have a weird salad.
Very great salad. And then you try to have a successful business like selling that weird salad. That is not going to work.
Yeah. And that's a great metaphor, because you think about, if you were to ask everyone what's your favorite salad, and one person's talking about, lettuce and croutons and tomatoes and carrots, and somebody else is talking about, eggs, mayo, mustard, and celery. And, to some people, salad means lettuce with stuff with it. And
Uh-huh,
for other people, salad means like chicken salad or egg salad.
uh-huh.
And we find that in business as well. You see this all the time, that somebody will say, one person says joint venture and it means I'm going to send a couple emails promoting your link, and someone else says joint venture and it means we're building a program together and splitting the revenues.
Yeah.
And if you're using that word interchangeably, you end up with a salad that contains mustard and mayonnaise and lettuce and croutons and nuts and carrots and
Yeah. Yeah.
chicken and noodles and all kinds of things.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking macaroni salad. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, all the things. So that's good advice. It doesn't have to be this or that. It can be this and that, and find your own variation of all these great things as you're finding building a solution, and work with a professional. If it's not me, if it's not Michael, find the professional that matches your value, that fits your vibe, that fits your personality, and find some way to collaborate and work with someone else who is a few steps at least of uh, in front of where you'd like to be and on your journey, so that you have that support. I really think that one of the biggest mistakes all entrepreneurs can fall guilty of is not working with someone in some capacity. And it is good when you actually invest in it and deeply invest in yourself. When there's a big investment, there's a big reward and a bigger chance that you'll actually follow through. I think that that's important. I think it's nice when people trade and do things for each other, and free has its value on some level, but a deep investment. I've really deeply invested in myself in mastermind groups and high level coaches and my education, and I followed through and I got better value for it for myself, and also better respect for myself. So I think that that's an important thing to do. All
Yeah,
right.
I think you bring up a good point there. The investment
Mhm.
is invest with a coach who's a little bit ahead of you and support you. But just because you give someone who calls themselves a coach a large amount of money doesn't mean you've hired a coach.
That's true.
Sometimes you buy a program thinking you're hiring a coach.
Mhm.
So if you can't talk to the person, they're not your coach. If
Mhm.
they're leading a program, but you're working with someone else, they're not your coach.
Yeah.
So, sometimes it's better to hire someone who is less famous and less huge, but who's where you want to be in 12 months or
Mhm.
24 months.
Mhm.
And, but you can actually meet with them. And so you can talk to that person, say, I like your vibe, your energy, we resonate. I'm going to
Mhm.
pay you $1,000 a month to coach me one on one, can
Mhm.
be much more valuable than paying $30,000 to someone you never actually get to talk to. So
Mhm.
make sure that what you're buying is what you think you're buying, and be careful of buying the dream. Make
Yeah.
sure you're actually buying what you really need from someone who can really provide it.
Well, and to that point, it's so much easier to brush off. Even if you pay for a big, expensive program and you're working with someone that isn't the lead person and all this, that, okay, so you didn't finish your homework. But when you're working with someone like me or you, we're going to text you and say, hey, where is it? We're going to call you. We're going to say, well, we got our meeting. Did you get that? Where are we on it? And if you're not
Yep.
getting it, we're going to figure out, well, why is that? Maybe you need a virtual assistant. Maybe you need an intern. There's some free
Hmm.
interns in the college program. Let's look at that as a like let's find out why you're not doing your homework. Where the other programs, I can't speak for all of them, but I know there are some that you'll just slip through the cracks. And
Yeah.
it isn't maybe that they don't. I can't say whether they care or not care, but not to the extent of someone in the category that Michael and I are talking about here. I think that makes a huge, huge difference. So I say go hire Michael. That's what I'll say about that. All right. So one of the other things I love about my show, because I do really like my show, is that we've always shared an amazing cause that our audience cares about. So and our guests care about. So get typing out there. Those of you watching live, stick it in the comments. Share with us the causes that are close to your heart, because we can all be a bit of a hero when we hit that share button and get some awareness and spread some good word about something bigger than just the two of us having a chat here, Michael and I. So, what about you, Michael? A cause that's close to your heart?
Yeah. So a lot of the mission work I do is actually I do through my business. It's helping people to figure out their lives, find opportunities. But one nonprofit I do work closely with is my church here in town, the
Mm,
No Ank Baptist Church, which is an American Baptist church. Um, there's about as many types of Baptists as there are types of salad dressing. So American Baptist is very different from Southern Baptist. In case anyone heard Baptist said, I know what that means. You don't.
yeah.
But what's great about what I love about our church is the fact that they are committed to the community and doing service, and it's one institution that then serves many other institutions. So
Mhm.
they have a house that they use to get people on their feet. So there's a house the church owns, and they'll bring a family in, let them live there for 3 to 5 years to get on their feet, and then get into their own apartment or their own house, and then another family can come in. They
Mhm.
created a nonprofit that helps refugees and homeless people, basically whatever the need is at that time in history. They've been doing
Sure.
it for 70 years. So it is one institution that serves many other institutions in the community, and supports a lot of global causes and whatnot as well. So that is a cause that I greatly support, and probably where I put much of my energy that isn't going into my business energy, which is where much of my energy is going.
Well, that's wonderful. I love that you shared that. And if you're sharing and typing, don't stop now. Your fingers are warmed up. Go ahead and start typing in all those books that have inspired your personal life or helped you grow your business. Maybe it's even books that you've written. Share that with us. And then we'll be your hero and share it with those out there in the world who just need to hear the words of wisdom that you've put down and are sharing. So, tell us, Michael Whitehouse, let's start with a book that inspired your personal life and helped you grow your business. And then we'll cover some of the books that you've written.
Yeah. So one of the books that really inspired me and helped to fill out my philosophy of networking is The Go-Giver
Mhm.
by Bob Berg and David Mann. It is a business parable about, Go-Giver is a play on the phrase go-getter. It is
Oh,
about the idea that the more you give, the more you try to help people, the more you try to serve the people around you, the more you will naturally get in return. Not in a tit for tat or quid pro quo, I gave you this, so now it's time to give it back. It's the more good you put out into the universe, the more it's going to make sure it comes back to you. And I have absolutely found that in my life, that I help over here, I gain over here, completely unrelated, and it works. And Bob Berg, one of the authors of the book, is one of the nicest, most generous people that I have ever had the privilege to meet and connect with. And I even got to interview my podcast. Like, oh, Bob Berg's on my podcast.
that's
But
awesome.
it's if you haven't read The Go-Giver, you absolutely should, because it's not a terribly long book, and it's narrative. It's not, a lot of these books are chapter 1, the philosophy of this is like about this guy who's having a challenge and he's trying to solve it, and he's got a mentor takes it through. So it's a really easy read, really fun read, and a huge fan of Bob Berg and The Go-Giver.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. And I think it's been on my shelf forever. And I'm about to go to spend a few days at the beach. So I will take that and one of my historical fiction fun books, because I always insist on reading a little bit of something that is just completely for fun.
Mm-hmm.
And something I soak myself in things that will improve myself and make me a better version of me. So, and I do find those fun as well. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and you can tell, you can read an afternoon. It's the kind of
yeah,
book that,
I'll take.
like, if you're on the beach, you'd be like, wait, where'd the last page go? How'd we finish this?
That reminds me of the 1 Minute Manager story. I
Mm-hmm.
really love that. That was a big impact on me. And there's a great story behind that author and that whole book and how it came to be and how it changed his life. So yeah, lots of really great ones, which is why I always prod my guests to say, share us a recommendation. We want a book from you. Why do you like this book? Why should we read it?
Yep.
And then lastly, we have like a small library of books for Michael Whitehouse to discuss. So tell us, you just became an author on a roll. You got one out there in the world, and then just I found that you had a lot more to say.
Yeah, so
Talk
I
to
have
us about
7
your book.
for the longest time. I had one book, which was The Guy Who Knows a Guy, which tells the story about how I became a networker and that
Mhm.
journey. And then I think it was 2021 or so, I wrote The View from the Deck. And this book came about because I spoke to 2 clients and I asked them, what's your big goal and what are you trying to do? What's your dream? And both of them had some variation of, I get up in the morning and I make my coffee and I go out on my deck, porch, veranda, and I look out over I think one, it was the lake, and one, it was the mountains. And so I got up one morning and I went down to my kitchen and I made my coffee and I walked out on my deck and I'm looking out over the forest behind my house. And I realized this story sounds familiar. It was the dream of 2 of my clients and I'm living it.
Mm.
And so I ended up just started writing. I wasn't even planning to, like, I had no plan for it. I just started writing about all these concepts of gratitude and appreciation and mindset and how to affect your world that way. And eventually, like, well, I guess I might as well publish it. It sat on my Google Drive for 2 years. Yeah, so I took this photo, which is the mug that I was drinking, and the very deck that it happened on. And then I realized that my book didn't actually teach you how to network. It was stories about networking. So I made an actual handbook for networking.
Mm.
And then I just kept going. So I wrote Flame to Fuel because somebody left a really nasty comment on Facebook one day. And I
Mm.
got so many ideas that, because I was going to write a bunch of emails to my email list about it. I'm like, well, that sounds weird and obsessive. So instead, I'll just write a book about it because that's normal. Because I had a bunch of ideas, so I wanted to share them. And I published a few other books. Actually, so this one I published because I wanted a way to get my foot in the door with some potential clients, and I didn't want to like cold call them. So I wrote a book and sent the book to them, which is to me easier than cold calling. And finally, I wrote The One Day Author because I wrote 3 books in 1 month, most of which were in 1 day or the 2 half days. And I thought, people might want to know how to write a book in a single day. So I wrote it. Now, you don't write a book like The Go Giver in a single day, but you can certainly write a book that gets your message across, that captures the philosophy of your course or your business, or something like that. And so a lot of people are like, oh, I want to have a book out with that explains my framework, but I don't have time to write it. Yeah, you do. If you're not trying to write, War and Peace, you're not trying to write the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, you can write your basic philosophy in a day, get it out there, and people can actually read what you're doing. So I think that's probably 5 or 6 of them, but there's 7. If you look me up on Amazon, look for if you see any books on horror, those are the other Michael Whitehouse. I have not published any fiction. That's the other second of my name. But if you look me up as the guy who knows a guy on Amazon, and you will find all my books out there.
Well, that's awesome. It sounds like you've been up to quite a few wonderful things. I feel your pain with the comments, the on fire kind of concept. I recently ran into someone. So there's a small collaboration fee to be on our show, right? $43. And the comment back was, I'd rather give my money to some social media platform not to be named, ads, right? And I was like, all right, well that's one way to go. But what I was laughing out loud because I had literally just written a message prior to his message coming in to someone else about how I love and appreciate affiliate relationships and joint venture relationships and genuine partnerships. And I'm just not an ads girl. I would much rather approach someone on Facebook or LinkedIn or even someone like you and say, look, I know you have a list that responds to your emails. What if I gave you X number of dollars to feature a story about me and promote me in your list? Or gee, you formed this really great Facebook group. Would you interview me live in front of your Facebook group and promote me? And I'll pay you X number of dollars up front and a percentage of, affiliate commission on everything else. If you feel like your community would resonate with this, it would bring value to them, and you'd be comfortable with that, I'd much rather give you money than said XYZ ABC social platform not to be mentioned.
Yep. Well, and that's the thing. Like, it makes so much more sense to do that. There are times when it makes sense.
I know they work and
pay for ads. But
yeah, I get that. I do.
But like for example, I connected with someone who's going to be building out my social media presence, and he knows how to do it, and he's got a team that edits the videos, and part of that is ad spend behind the videos. But he's got a team that full time tracks the algorithm and says this works and this long and this thumbnail and this is, so it's part of a whole thing, and it's just putting more fuel into the engine. But for the most part, all things being equal, I'd much rather work with someone, because if you hire me and let's say you sponsor an email to my list, and I actually have had a few people do this, and they say I'll give you however much money to do whatever, and if in the end you look at it, you're like, I was kind of hoping for X, but we only got Y. I'm going to figure something out. Like, well, let me make a couple Facebook posts for you. Let me send a second email. Let's see if we can tweak this. Maybe I'll do a second one, but it's going to be with an affiliate link instead of, without commission. We'll find a way, because it's about the relationship. If you buy Facebook ads and they don't perform, you're not going to Zuckerberg and being like, hey, this didn't work out for me. Could you hook me up? And he'd be like, that sounds like a you problem. Give me more money and let's try again. So, when you're working with people, I had someone who bought a sponsorship for an event from me, and she didn't even complain. I looked at the results she got and I said, that doesn't feel worth it for what she paid me, to me, as a person who got the money. She didn't say a word. I don't even know if she knew it was a good experience or not. I looked at it and said, I don't like what you got. I'm going to run a summit for you. I'm going to make you a host of a summit, share the results of that summit for you, because you paid me for a sponsorship, and I want to make sure you got what you paid for, and I don't feel like you did. And that's something you're not going to get from paid social media ads or whatever. And the amount to be on this show is so negligible that
I mean, it's less than a tank of gas, for sure.
Yeah. Well, not in I don't know what kind of car you drive, but but that says more about the efficiency of my car and not of the cost of the
Yes.
show.
Well, if you have an electric car, then yeah. But anyway, but that really leads back to our point earlier, but as we come to a wrap in our show today, it's not this or that as in a
Yep.
solution. It's this and that. And I do believe that when you work with a high level professional who knows how to work the different platforms and knows how to set the ads up correctly, that could be part of a strategy. I just love it to not be all the strategy. And I also love it for, like you said, for the relationships, for the humans that you're affecting,
Mm-hmm.
when you work with someone more directly, even a big influencer, right? That I feel like is even better than sometimes an ad spend, but then that's a third option. So maybe spend some money in ads, work with an influencer, and work with
Yep.
those other people who have just a few thousand people in their following. That's still a few thousand people. And if you build that relationship that mattered, that lead person matters to those few thousand people.
Yep.
And that endorsement and that partnership, that joint venture, that affiliate relationship, whatever you'd like to call it, is of great value. And for me, I know that money is going to a real human to put their kid through school or pay the lights on or whatever, and some of this other money, I guess you just part with it and you and make peace with it that you have no idea where it's really going.
Well, and the point about the social media, because you said, being all, and it took me a couple years to realize there's people whose business is entirely ad driven. Because I'd see, Facebook would change their algorithm or whatever, and they'd be freaking out. And I'd be like, why are you so upset about that? And then you realize 80% of their revenue comes from Facebook ads, or 90% of their revenue is TikTok. It's one platform, and they act like they own it, like it'll never change. It's all rented land. So if one of those big companies does something big, blows something up, Facebook goes offline, LinkedIn goes offline, TikTok gets shut down, whatever, okay, I adapt and pivot. There's no one company that can do something that would catastrophically destroy my business. I still have my relationships. I still have my community and my audience, and I may need to move them somewhere else, but it's primarily through email. So I own that audience. I can download the emails and upload them somewhere else. And even if email went away somehow, I could find some other way. I'd reach back out to the people I personally have relationships with, and we'd rebuild from there. These
Yeah.
people who are all Facebook, all social media, all paid ads, all algorithm, they're living in this like weird virtual land of math and algorithms, and they don't actually, they're not much better than farmers 10,000 years ago praying to the gods for rain.
Yeah.
They
Or
don't
not too much
understand what
rain
creates their
or a little
livelihood, and they
rain.
can't control it.
Yeah, because it's a balance, because too much rain will drown the crops, and not enough rain
Yep.
will starve the crops, and locusts come, and hail comes, because hail happens.
Yep.
So yeah, I feel the same way. I think what we need to remind ourselves as we got off on this tangent a little bit is to make sure that we own our connections and our relationships and our contact information, and back up and download and save your content, your contacts, your relationships in a place that you own. And even then, I'm one of those who don't trust it. I have two external hard drives in case one gets corrupted. I have two clouds, and everything's in all four places, because you just never know.
But even I lost all my data and all my social media accounts, I'm still going to remember the names of some of the people I know. So I'm going to go, create a new social media account. So I'd be okay, who do I know? All right, Jessica Koch, here she is, contact request. Summer, here, contact request. Bob
Yeah.
Berg, contact request. So, I can rebuild, because they're human connections. And a lot of these businesses, there's no humanity in it. Maybe they know 2 or 3 people who like taught them the strategy. But if they lost their Facebook account, or they lost their LinkedIn account or their TikTok account, they got nothing. They literally have to start from scratch, because all they learned was the algorithm of that one system. They don't have a business. They have a magic trick.
Mhm. It's a pretty good magic trick sometimes, though. So
Oh
I
yeah.
think I think we've learned that there's variety is the spice of life here. That is
Yep.
our message. And if you're thinking, wait, I have some interesting things I could say on this show, Jessica's. I'm an author. I'm a coach. I help people improve their personal life, grow their business, do great things in the world. Then you should jump on our show, reach out to us and our team, and we'll see just about how to get you scheduled. This has been a hoot and a holler and a lot of fun, Michael Whitehouse, the guy who knows a guy. Thank you so much for being on my show today.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Well, I'm glad you liked it. Now, before we close it out completely, we would love to ask you to share a final thought, a piece of information, or inspiration. Inspire us as we go today.
I guess the final inspiration I'm going to leave with is kind of along the lines of what I've been saying. Don't should all over yourself. We spend a lot of time saying, I should do this, I should do that. Someone told me this, I should do it. I should. If you didn't do it, you didn't do it. Don't live in the past, not doing the thing in your mind. Just go forward and find where you're trying to get to, do the best you can. And you're never going to get it perfect. Forgive, move on, and keep moving, because as long as you stay in motion, you're eventually going to get where you're trying to get to.
That's right. Keep moving forward in a good direction. I think that's a great way to end the show. I am your host, Jessica Koch. This has been another Profound Professionals. And until next time, be kind to yourself out there and be kind to each other. Bye, everybody.